It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe.
Phoenix has the ball, and a pinnacle ball throws it down.
DeBrincat gets it back to Gosses. Barron across now. King.
They score! Raymond!
Big five. Got to throw it. It's caught by St. Brown for a first down.
This is BS Sports.
And we're back. We're back like I never left. So I just want to say, full disclosure, if my voice is completely shot, it's because I've called 2 games over the past 2 days. I don't know how regular play-by-play people do this, let alone baseball. I don't know. I guess the flip, like the time in between rest, is much different. But either way, oh my gosh, Francisco Lindor just hit a moonshot, but it's going nowhere. I thought that was gone. The Mets are up 8-4 over the Brew Crew. Are the Brewers going to lose in the first round again? Are they going to do it again? Just some team in the New York Mets that came in on like the last week and managed to sneak into the playoffs? Don't have this happen again, Milwaukee. Golly. Anyway, we're back. We're back. I mean, look, I'm still kind of reeling from that Tiger victory. We'll get to it. We'll break down at least sort of the immediate reaction, because this was literally out a few hours ago when the game ended. The Tigers got the win. We'll talk about it. We got NFL to get to. This is also kind of weird because it's also just the day after a Lions victory, a big win that they needed to get. And we'll talk everything else. We'll talk even Michigan State, because they apparently played a football game. I don't know if you guys were familiar or were aware, but they did. They played a football game. It wasn't a very good football game, but they did play it, technically, like by the rules, by the definition of playing it. They did do that. So we'll get to it. But the headliner of the show, I know the Tigers just won a playoff game. You know what? This is my show. I'm taking control. We're going to talk Tigers. We're talking Tigers start. I don't care what I put in the thumbnail. I don't care. We're going to talk Tigers. So Tigers get the win today, 3-1 over the Astros, and it was not without some drama. They scored 3 runs in the second inning. Shout out Jake Rogers, Trey Sweeney, and Matt Vierling. If you had them on your bingo card for getting the 3 runs that the Tigers would need, you won the lottery apparently, because I don't think most people thought they were going to be the ones who would lead the offense here. But great game, especially for Jake Rogers. I'm sure it meant a lot for him, obviously being traded from the Houston Astros to the Tigers, and he would go out and have a really, really nice game. I mean, 2 hits, got the run home, and scored a run himself. He struck out as well, but, overall, pretty good game. And he called a great game for Tarek Skubal, who, for all intents and purposes, if there's MVPs of series, he's the MVP so far. I mean, he pitched 6 innings of shutout baseball, gave up just 4 hits, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts, a strikeout an inning, basically. And look, there's a reason this guy is the best pitcher in baseball. And I've been saying this, like, probably at least since June or July. Like, it seems to me that he is far and away the best pitcher in baseball. Like, is Chris Sale, who is probably going to win the Cy Young in the NL, is he better than Tarek Skubal? I don't think so. It's certainly not long term. Chris Sale is, he didn't even make the wild card roster for the Braves because he's dead. He died. His body doesn't want to work anymore because he put it all just to get the Triple Crown and probably the Cy Young. But no, I mean, like, even like Seth Lugo, any of these, not Colton Cowser. Who's the guy on Atlanta? Baltimore. Corbin Burns, like, all these fine pitchers, but Tarek Skubal is just in a league of his own. When you win the Triple Crown, you get special attention. That's just how it works. So shout out to Tarek Skubal. He for all intents and purposes, he won us this game, or at least he kept us in it to where, okay, offense, we gave him 3 runs of support, and that's it. And I think there was a little bit of that sense, a little bit in Houston, where like Tigers got up to a 3-0 lead and basically never looked back. The pitching just dominated from there on. Houston had just 7 hits on the day, and the one run that they scored was on a sac bunt. So they didn't even when they got the scoring finally, it was, not without a cost. They had to use an out to get that run home. And then from there, the Tigers bullpen just shuts the door. Jason Foley, of course, had to make it interesting, but they shut the door. The bullpen shut the door nonetheless. And I was saying this before, like I think it was last week's clip when I pointed out, could the Tigers make a run here? Assume this was before they had clinched if they make the playoffs. Well, now they did, and I see no reason why this team can't make a run, at least potentially for this next round, right? They got to win 1 out of their 2 next games here in Houston. I don't know who's going to be pitching tomorrow. It very well could be a bullpen day. Or maybe you throw Reese Olson out there and he pitches, 3-4 innings of opening as a starter, and then you start bringing in your bullpen arms. Maybe you start Tyler Holton as an opener. He's been fantastic. I have no doubt in my mind that the Tigers can very well do that and pull out a win that way. That's what they've done for the past 40 or so games. So, yes, did they leave a lot of men on base? Yeah, they did. If they had consistent hitting and if they had gotten the timely hits, they very well could have won this game 8-0. But that's not how playoff baseball works. Playoff baseball is running through pitching because the Astros let it all out. I mean, when you pitch 8 innings of shutout baseball on either end, I mean, the Tigers did the same thing. 8 innings of shutout baseball, your pitching is pretty good. And Framber Valdez had a bad day. He got lit up a little bit. 4 1/3 and 7 hits with all 3 of the runs coming to him and just 3 strikeouts. He didn't have a good night or a good afternoon, I should say. This is an afternoon start. He didn't have a good game. And Tigers took advantage when they needed to. They got the lead, and then they said, all right, that's all we need. Our pitching staff is gonna be able to carry us. So shout out to the pitching. Shout out to Bo Brisky, who got the save. Scooble, who is credited for the win. It's always funny looking at the stats at the end of it. Because Matt Vierling batting .250 with a .650 OPS. Justin Henry Malloy, a .500 average with an 1167 OPS. So a good day for J-Hen. A pretty good day for Ibanez as well. Even Colt Keith had a .667 OPS. Wenzel Perez had a solid day. Even Torkelson had a .500 OPS as well. He got on base a couple of times there. And he made the play at the end on the line drive. He just stood, just caught the ball. No biggie. And he also made a play a little before that where he had to run and make a catch where he was, reaching out for it. So Torkelson had a pretty nice day defensively. Pretty mediocre day at the plate. Yeah. So I think the Tigers offensively are going to have to be a little bit better than they were today. But assuming their pitching staff continues to dominate some of these top of the line baseball lineups, maybe they don't have to be all that much better. Maybe they can get away with winning these 3-1 games or these 4-2 games or whatever that score ends up looking like. Maybe that's just how it's going to go this postseason, and that means it's going to be stressful. We're not going to win games 9-0, as much as I would love for them to do that. They really haven't been that kind of a team all year. I mean, their offensive ranks, I want to say, are still pretty low for the league, but their pitching staff is just that good. So, yeah, I thought it was a fantastic win. It ends an 11-year drought for the Tigers who had not won a playoff game since 2013, by the way. They made the playoffs in 2014, so they ended a 10-year drought of making it, but they hadn't won anything, or they hadn't won a playoff game since 2013. They got swept in 14. So you get that monkey off your back, right? The first monkey you got off your back was breaking that 10-year drought. Then the next monkey you got off was winning that playoff game. Next monkey, I guess, is winning the playoff series. And then, again, I mean, either way, you're playing with house money. If you end up losing the next 2 games, you know what? I'm going to be upset, obviously, because you're in a spot here where you can advance with just 1 more win. I'd rather you not go out there and lose 2 in a row after playing an amazing game here. But either way, you're playing with house money. I didn't think the Tigers were going to be here. I don't think most of the people in the organization thought they were going to be here, but they are. So, go out and win the games. Go out and why not us? Like seriously, it is just crazy because we've seen these sorts of things happen all the time in baseball. So why not the Tigers? Why not them to be a team to sleep on in the American League that could go far here? Either way, if they end up beating Houston either today either tomorrow or on Thursday, they'll be facing a division rival, a team that they know very well in the Cleveland Guardians, and a team that's very similar, that is built largely on their pitching with not a whole lot of offensive firepower. So it could actually be a pretty good matchup for Detroit to try to punch their ticket into the ALCS. That's a best out of 5 series, which is a lot more difficult than a best of 3, which the Tigers have been used to for most of the regular season. Either way, it was a massive win. They needed this, and I really just want playoff baseball to come back to the city of Detroit. And if you win tomorrow, you will get some home games up against Cleveland, or at least one. I don't actually know how it works. I think it's home, away, home, home, and then it's away. Wait, home, away, home, away. I believe that's how it goes. Because we naturally, the lower seed, have to have less home games, right? So I think it'll be away, home, away, right? Yeah, that sounds right. So we'll get at least 2. Roughly. So anyway. So that's that. Meanwhile, the Kansas City Royals, I guess just wrap up playoff baseball stuff. They managed to get a win, shutout over the Baltimore Orioles, which is a little shocking. Baltimore on the precipice of doing exactly what they did last year, which is just completely flame out in the playoffs. I think if Kansas City manages to finish the job here and get the win, I gotta say Baltimore's got to be one of the more disappointing teams this season. I mean, going into this year, this was supposed to be the year where Baltimore was going to take that step forward and make a playoff run, and it just. I mean, it could still happen. I'm not saying they're dead in the water. You can lose a game and still win the series, but now your back is to the wall, right? And now you got to be perfect. And Baltimore, unfortunately, has been sort of spiraling as of late. And not that Kansas City hasn't been struggling as of late, but somebody had to win the game. So that's just how it goes. Meanwhile, as well, the Mets have an 8-4 lead over the Brew Crew. That's another team that, are they going to do this again? Last year they lose to the Arizona Diamondbacks in the first round in the wild card. Is this just who you are? That you can win the division, you can beat up on your bad divisional teams, but you just can't ever make a run in the playoffs. I got to feel sorry for Milwaukee Brewers fans. That team has never won a World Series. They're one of the few teams that has never won a World Series because baseball's been around for so long that almost every team has at least won it or certainly been to it, except for the Mariners. They're the only team that hasn't been. But yeah, and then later tonight, Seth's Padres up against the Atlanta Braves. I think that's the Padres game to lose. I think the Braves managed to fall into the playoffs as they do, and I don't see it going well for them against that Padres pitching staff. I think it'll be a Padres win, and hopefully it will, and me and Seth can live the dream of having both of our teams play each other in the World Series. That would be absolutely fantastic. I would love that. That would be so much fun. Although it would be also incredibly emotional for either of us. One of us is going to end up really, really sad. But I hope it's not me. So, yeah. Either way, though, good win. Playoff baseball is finally here. I love it. A couple other notes here on playoff baseball. A little bit of a playoff preview, even though the games are starting today. The Yankees went all in on Juan Soto. Got to be their year, right? I mean, I don't know if Juan Soto is going to be coming back. It's sort of been back and forth, it seems, between Steinbrenner and Cashman and Soto. Where is he? Should I stay or should I go? Is the Juan Soto line. And you have such a loaded team, right? You won your division, so you're already advanced one round. This has got to be your year. If New York goes out and loses again, because they're going to play the winner of the Baltimore Kansas City series. If they lose to either of those teams, it's really a nightmare scenario. If you lose to Baltimore, at least you can maybe say, well, there's a divisional opponent. They got the better of us, but, you could say you played hard. If you lose to the Royals, a team that hasn't been to the playoffs until this year since they won the World Series in 2015. At that point, I don't know how Brian Cashman is going to keep his job. I don't know how he's kept his job for as long as he has. I mean, granted, of course, the Yankees have been good, but they haven't won titles, and that really is the marker of success for New York sports teams in general. Playoffs all over in Detroit Tigers, Detroit FC. I don't follow Detroit like the MLS, so I didn't. Or is that even MLS? I don't even know. Yeah, hopefully the Red Wings this year will make the playoffs too, and the Lions. I guess it's not a lock that the Lions will make the playoffs. I think they probably will. They're a very good team. We'll talk about them in a bit. But yeah, the Red Wings. Man, oh man, if they don't make the playoffs, I'm coming for Stevie White's head. I'm done at that point. Like, you have to make the playoffs this year. Because, first of all, you had to make the playoffs last year, and you didn't. You blew that. And now, it's like, I don't want to hear any more excuses for Steve Eisman. But that's a discussion for another day. We'll talk about that probably next week, as NHL season will be starting next Thursday, I believe. At least for the Red Wings next Thursday. They play Pittsburgh. They got a preseason game, I believe, today. But preseason, who cares about that? On the NL side, similar to the Yankees, I feel like this is the Dodgers' pennant to lose. I mean, first of all, they're just loaded, right? They have Shohei, they have Freddie Freeman, they got Mookie Betts, they got everybody. They got the who's who of baseball. If they don't win this again, if they don't, their 2020 World Series championship is so disrespected by myself as well. I mean, you played 60 games. The fact that you ended up winning, maybe they would have ended up winning it that year anyway, but there's no way of really knowing. And this year, you're better than you were that World Series year, for sure. No doubt about that. You have Ohtani. But we have not yet seen Shohei Ohtani perform in this environment. He's performed really well in, quote unquote, low pressure environments. I don't know that there's really that exactly when he's playing for the Dodgers. But either way, this has to be the year for the Dodgers. And speaking of teams that it also has to be a year for, the Phillies. I'm going to be honest. I kind of forgot that the Phillies even were in this. I was thinking, man, I feel like I'm missing a team to talk about in the NL. I was like, oh yeah, the Phillies. That's right. They also made it. They didn't do much of anything in the trade deadline. I just don't know what the thought process is in Philadelphia. I guess they figure they're good enough. They don't need to get any better. Okay. I don't know how well that's going to work if and when you have to play LA, or if and when you have to play San Diego. Some of these teams that are, pushing hard to be, contenders and go for a run here. I feel like they're going to try to get themselves bailed out by all the talent they have, but I don't know. I don't feel like the Phillies are really the front of center for most people. I don't think as far as National League teams, I just don't view them in the same way, frankly, that I even view the Padres or the Dodgers. They're just sort of an afterthought, which is weird to me. And I can't really explain why, but it is what it is. That's how I view them. So, yeah. But either way, it's going to be a good playoff, I think. Baseball always delivers on the playoffs. Last year was so much fun. You had the Rangers win their first World Series. That's awesome. You had the Diamondbacks go on a miraculous run, I should say. So, yeah, I think we're in for another solid playoffs for baseball. So, yeah, good stuff. Detroit has Houston's number so far. Tigers are ahead 1-0 in the wild card round, and Detroit FC upset the Houston Dynamo. I was rooting for them against the Houston Dynamo. Yeah, it's a bad day to be a Houston sports fan, I guess. Bad day. Bad day for Houston sports, it seems. But I also should mention, this is baseball related. Pete Rose died. Yep, that's correct. If we win tomorrow, we advance. We just need to win either today or today. I keep saying that. We need to win either tomorrow or Thursday. It's the best 2 out of 3. So we just gotta win one more. So Pete Rose, though. Pete Rose dies, 83 years old. Baseball legend, one way or the other. Not gonna get into whether or not he should be in the Hall of Fame. But still a icon of the game. Obviously one of the best players, I think, to play. Whether or not he should be in the Hall of Fame again is sort of a moot point at this point. He's just not going to get into it, unfortunately or fortunately. It's just not going to happen. But it's crazy. I feel like we've had a massive year of sports deaths. You had oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name now. Oh my gosh, what is his name? Bill Russell died. That was not this year. That was 2 years ago or a year ago. What's his name? Bill Walton. Bill Walton died. That's who I was thinking of. I knew it was Bill. Bill Walton died. And then obviously the most tragic was the Gaudreau brothers dying in that horrible accident. That's just awful stuff. But Pete Rose dies at 83. So yeah. And then briefly before we get into football related stuff, I also wanted to mention the Knicks make the trade for Karl Anthony Towns, little NBA offseason in October. Didn't expect this to happen. Shams Charania reports Knicks have acquired Karl Anthony Towns from Minnesota for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and the first round pick via Detroit. So there is actually a connection here with Detroit. The Knicks send that pick that we gave them, I think, years ago at this point. And they pick up Karl Anthony Towns. Julius Randle's sent off. I was talking to Seth about this the day it happened. I do kind of feel like this is a win-win trade. I think Julius Randle going to the Wolves is a really solid pickup for them. Dante DiVincenzo, another guy who's a really solid ball player. And Karl Anthony Towns going to New York, getting extra center depth for them, I think is also fantastic. I think both these teams pulled off pretty good deals here. And then obviously Minnesota gets a draft pick as well. So, I'm sure they can make something out of that potentially. So I was just surprised that this move was made because I thought basically any of the major moves in the NBA were done, but no, right before the season gets started, we get a big move. So yeah, exciting stuff. NBA season going to be just around the corner here. So that should be interesting, except for the Pistons. It won't be interesting for them because they will probably be bad. We'll talk about that when it gets closer. But so, all right, let's talk NFL. Let's talk football. Lions, massive win, needed the win, and they did it with style. Jared Goff played what I think might be the best game of his career. I mean, for one, 18 for 18 hadn't been done in the modern era ever, that a quarterback has 100% completion rating at the end of a game, throwing at least one pass. The fact that he threw double-digit passes, the fact that he threw the ball 18 times and was completed every single time is incredible. A 155 rating on ESPN, a 95 QBR on ESPN, a couple of touchdowns as well for him, 292 yards, so nearly 300-yard game, and a receiving touchdown. So, this was the Jared Goff game. He looked poised. He looked elite. He looked like the guy that led us to that division title last year and the playoff wins last year. And that's a welcome sight to see. And I hope that this is just the start of things, that he can be that guy for relatively the rest of the season. Lions obviously going into a bye this week, and they need it because there was no Frank Ragnow in this game, which is all the more impressive that he was able to look this good and that the offense was able to look this good. And no Brian Branch either. Those guys are going to get healthy, hopefully by the time of the bye week. By the time the bye week ends, because they got Dallas on the road there, which is not going to be an easy game, depending on how Dallas ends up. I don't know if Dallas is going to be any good, but either way, a great win for the offense. I mean, this is just complete and utter dominance offensively. I mean, just looking at the team stats in the red zone, Lions were perfect, 5 for 5. we never had to settle for a field goal. Every time that we got in plus territory, practically, I think actually every time we got in plus territory, we scored a touchdown. And it was rushing touchdowns in the beginning of the game. Then you had the deep ball to J-Mo. That was an amazing play. J-Mo, as soon as he put the gas on, I said in the broadcast, I said, oh, he's gone. He's gone. The moment he caught that ball and he was in space and there was one man to beat and he beat him, he's gone. You're not catching him. Jamison Williams, a couple of catches for 80 yards for him. And what's even crazier is we lost the possession battle as far as time of possession goes. Seattle had the ball for more than half the game, and it didn't matter. They couldn't score, or they couldn't score 30 points, I should say. They couldn't match our offense. If they scored a touchdown, we scored a touchdown. When they turned that ball over in the first half, and we turned that into a touchdown, they didn't know it yet, and I didn't know it yet, but the game was over because we were on multiple possessions, and our offense was clicking. We only had 21 first downs. They had 38 first downs. Now, with that, I transitioned into the negative of this game, which is that the defense did not look good. Geno Smith threw the ball 56 times for 38 completions, 395 yards, had a touchdown. He did throw an interception, though, to be fair, and he was sacked 3 times. Either way, this was still overall not a great day for the defense. Total on the ground, they gave up 133 yards, 80 yards to Kenneth Walker. Now, to be fair, they hold another single player to less than 100 yards, so it's not terrible. But Kenneth Walker was running better than anybody had ran on our defense in a long time. DK Metcalf was getting his 7 catches, 104 yards for him, but no touchdowns for him either. The only receiving touchdown they gave up was to A.J. Barner. Did anybody have him on their bingo card of getting a receiving touchdown today? Because I don't think I did. Kenneth Walker, on the other hand, had 3 rushing touchdowns. He was practically their whole offense. Reminded me of Michigan State. But no, I mean, the defense did struggle. No doubt about it. Kirby Joseph continuing, though, to have a great game or a great start to his season. He led the team in tackles with 9 total tackles for him. Although the reason that he's leading the team in tackles is they were throwing the ball and completing it. And so he had to make those tackles because he's a safety. You usually don't want your safety to lead in tackles unless he's blitzing a lot. But either way, it was a bit of a rough night for the defense, and not without some help from the referees, I will say. There was some very questionable calls there by the referees that definitely favored Seattle, but there were also some questionable calls that favored Detroit, especially near the end there. But I guess I just call it even at that point. There's questionable calls that go either way. And Detroit ended up coming away with the win, despite the questionable calls that didn't go their way. But defensively, I will just say this. I don't know what kind of evil, mind-warping powers that Geno Smith seems to have when he comes to play in Ford Field. Because every single time he does, he just lights it up. I don't know how he does it. He did it in 2022. He did it last year. He did it this year. And he nearly won the game. Seattle very well could have won this game. But Lions offensively was too much. And the turnovers went in favor of Detroit. It's funny because, last year, the turnovers, Detroit could have won that game if not for the turnovers. And this year, Seattle could have won this game if not for their turnovers. I mean, you fumble the ball on your second drive, and that turns into a touchdown, and then a game-sealing practically, a game-sealing interception by Kirby Joseph at the end there. It's funny how things work out like that. It's funny how sometimes, games are really decided by these 1 or 2 big plays in big moments. Don't get it twisted. Seattle is still a very good team. Their defense definitely not all that good. I mean, you give up 40 points to anybody, that's usually not a good sign. But offensively, they can keep up with teams. I mean, they were rocking us in the second half. They scored 13 points in the third quarter alone, and they only failed because they only got the 13 because they failed on the 2-point conversion. But either way, this was a must-needed win. The Lions get themselves to 3-1, go into the bye, get healthy. Oh, and before I end this section, The black uniforms for the Lions are so good. I'm looking forward to the next time they wear these. I don't know when it is. I'm sure it's going to be another primetime game when they wear them. But they're just so cool. They're so cool looking. I love how they even decked out the end zone, had black outline on the Lions nameplate there, and then you had the black on the sideline padding. It was so cool. It was a great environment. Detroit delivered on Monday night. They got the win. Primetime Goff is that guy. So we're on to the bye week, and then after that, we're on to Dallas. So I'm gonna be like hate watching Dallas as I always do. And I'm just saying, if we beat the Cowboys, like beating the Seahawks is one thing, right? That was one that was like, okay, finally, we get this stupid team and get them out of here. Beating the Cowboys. Now that would truly make me happy. Watching, little Dak Prescott or Tony Romo 2.0 as I like to call him, just beating that bum in his house and watching Jerry Jones slowly just descend into it like a skeleton, like at the end of the third Indiana Jones movie. Like that would bring nothing but joy to watch all those pathetic loser Cowboy fans who haven't seen anything successful in their sports life, because most of them weren't alive when the Cowboys actually won Super Bowls. I can go on forever because I can't stand the Cowboys and I just love seeing them lose. So either way, and for that game last year where they had to get bailed out by the refs when they absolutely lost to us, and I'll go to my grave saying that they lost that game to us. Either way, we're on to Dallas, and the Lions train is really starting to roll. So maybe they'll make things fun 2 weeks from now and blow out Dallas and their bum ass quarterback. So looking forward to that. That's all I got. I got nothing else. So now it's top of the 8th. It's still 8-4 Mets. Oh, the Johnsonville sausage race. That's so much fun. I need to go to a Brewers game. I feel like, I have this dream of mine, and it's a little far-fetched as far as like capability of doing this. But I have a dream of one day, probably if I retire with enough money to be able to pull this off. I would like to be able to go to every single MLB stadium and just, travel with the Tigers, because now Tigers play every single team in the league. So it would make sense. I'd like to be able to do that like in a season. It's like, okay, Tigers, like I'll go to like opening day in Detroit, and then I'll go to wherever I'll travel with them in a way. Like that would be so much fun. It's like every week it's like, all right, we're going to Cleveland, or we're going to Tampa, or I guess St. Petersburg. We're going to Arizona. We're going to Colorado. We're going to Oakland. Oh, well, it won't be Oakland then. We don't know where. Maybe it'll be back in Oakland. Who knows? They'll move from Vegas or wherever they end up. I don't know where they're going to end up. But so, yeah, I just want to point that out. So, all right. Let's talk the rest of the NFL week. So, I got a lot of things to talk about because this was quite the week. I'm not talking about that Cowboys-Giants game. I'm not going to do it. That game was terrible. They both look bad. And, yeah, I don't know why they had to put that game on Thursday Night Football. Right after the show where I said, stop putting the Cowboys on primetime, what do? They put the Cowboys on primetime. Anyway, I want to talk about the Bears and the Rams game because there's a lot of talk about this game and how Caleb Williams has looked, because once again, they basically have the Bears have won a game in spite of Caleb Williams. It's becoming a bit of a trend here. Caleb Williams, 17 for 23, 157 yards, 1 touchdown, was sacked 3 times. He had 106 rating. It's not like he had a terrible game, but he didn't have a great game either. The thing about this is, people will say, and it's fair to say, I'm not saying this is like totally ridiculous. People will say, well, give him some time, let him learn the NFL speed. It takes some time for some guys. And that's fair. That's fair. It does take some time. But all I was fed in the offseason from the Bears is, they're loaded with talent. They got Cole Kmet. They got DeAndre Swift. They got what's his name? They got Rome Odunze. They got Keenan Allen. They got like all these guys. They got DJ Moore. And I'm going to be honest. You wouldn't know that they had, Rome Odunze because the brother only had one catch. He had one catch for 10 yards. Rome, did you even play? I mean, Keenan Allen, solid day for you. 3 catches for 19 yards. I'm just, what is going on? And great, you beat, a beat up LA Rams team where it's basically Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams, and everybody else. And Tutu Atwell, I guess. They have no wide receivers. Their defense is beat up with no Aaron Donald anymore, obviously. It's just not a very good Rams team this year. The Rams have not won a game on the road either. So that's already a thing with them. They're struggling to win on the road. And it's okay, the real MVP of this game was DeAndre Swift, who, had what is expected of him, which is his standard one game of dominance. This is what DeAndre Swift does. He did a very similar thing with Philadelphia earlier in the year last year. And I remember there was some boneheaded Lions fan saying, look how DeAndre Swift's doing. Jahmyr Gibbs is struggling, because this was before Jahmyr Gibbs really started to go off. Jahmyr Gibbs is struggling. DeAndre Swift, maybe we should have just stuck with him. Shouldn't have wasted a pick on Gibbs. And look, now Swift is on his 4th team, and he's doing it again, where he's, he's had a good game. He rushed for 93 yards. I mean, he did have a good game. Rushed for 93 yards, had a touchdown, 72 yards in the air. He had a good game. He does this. He's a pretty good player. But I and many Lions fans know he's not reliable. He will have games where he will look like this. And then he'll have games where you wonder if he even played. You'll wonder where he is on the field, or he'll end up getting hurt, which is a harsh reality, but it just is. And I hate it for him. I would have loved if things worked out with DeAndre Swift here. But clearly, the Lions, who are a good organization, they let him go. Philly, still, the jury is still out on whether or not they're a good organization. We'll talk about them a little later. But they let him go. And now the Bears, who, I'm just going to be frank, I know are not a good organization, are giving him a shot. So, fine. I mean, have fun with him. I don't think he's going to last long. I'd be shocked if he ends up being a Pro Bowl caliber running back, because he just has never been that. He'll have games of dominance. He'll have games where he shows flashes, but he's just not a reliable player. And I hope that on the other side of it, that Caleb Williams, just for, the sake of quarterback play in the NFL, I hope that this guy is not just another case of overhyped prospect. I hope he's not Trevor Lawrence 2.0, who we will talk about a little later, I believe. I think I took a note on this. If not, I guess I didn't take a note on this. But I don't want Caleb Williams to just be Trevor Lawrence 2.0. Now, from a fan standpoint, from a Lions fan standpoint, yeah, I hope he throws a million interceptions. I hope he's the worst quarterback in the history of the NFL. But from a overall football perspective, I don't want the guy to be bad, because when you have a good player, it's exciting. It's more fun. But yeah, I mean, I through 4 weeks, there has never been a game where Caleb Williams has looked anything other than pedestrian. And I'm not saying that's who he's going to be long term. I'm just saying the only evidence of him in the NFL that I have is him playing pretty mediocre quarterback play. And the 2 wins that they do have as a team are in spite of Caleb Williams being kind of underwhelming. So, again, it's a storyline. We're going to continue to follow it. Certainly it's in division, so it's related to the Lions in that way. But I see no reason why we shouldn't keep following this until Caleb Williams becomes that guy and he's just consistent and it becomes no longer a point of emphasis. I'm going to keep following it. And speaking of things that I got to keep following, is Minnesota just good at this point? I don't understand it. I don't think anybody really understands it. They're 4-0. They're undefeated. And they locked down the Packers. Don't get it twisted, all right? You look at these stats for Jordan Love. You see he threw for 389 yards and 4 touchdowns. Don't get it twisted. Jordan Love was awful this game. Jordan Love was absolutely putrid. I don't want to hear about, that he almost came back. Dude, you were down 28-7 at the half. The game was over, right? Minnesota had to have an astronomically terrible second half. And even despite all that, they still won the game by having just 3 points. Green Bay outscored them 22 points, but Green Bay also had a terrible third quarter. So Green Bay, like, I don't know, like, frankly, they look better when Malik Willis was playing. Now, granted, they weren't playing the Vikings, which, either way, I'm just saying, like, now we have 2 games of Jordan Love, both of them losses, and both of them he didn't play well. So again, I bring up this point, like, why did we just automatically christen Jordan Love as this elite quarterback, as this, next coming of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers? We had half a season worth of him playing good football and winning a playoff game against an awful Cowboys team that really was overrated the whole year. I'm just making the point that, things are not always as secure as NFL fans and the media narrative likes to put it. Clearly, Jordan Love is struggling. And I don't even know if he's fully healthy. Like, he came back much quicker from this injury than I think most people expected. I expected him to be about 4 weeks. He was out 2. If he's forcing himself to play, we could be looking at a Baker Mayfield situation with him where, granted, Baker's proven to be a pretty solid quarterback at this point, but, Baker Mayfield, played hurt to his destruction in his old team. I hope that's not the case here, but either way, to get away from Green Bay and onto Minnesota, look, they have weapons. Sam Darnold is going to get his, and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are going to get theirs. Aaron Jones is going to run for a lot of yards. I'm surprised by the record as a whole because the defense is playing out of its mind, but I'm not surprised by the performance from the team on the offensive side. Sam Darnold also, by the way, throughout his career, first 4 weeks, elite, amazing, great. I think the shoe is going to fall off. I do. Sam Darnold has been in the league for what? At this point, 6 years? He's been on 4 different teams, right? He's been on the Jets, he's been on the Panthers, he's been on the Niners, and now he's on the Vikings. And he wasn't even supposed to start. Like, J.J. McCarthy was supposed to be their starter, and he went down. It does become kind of interesting, though, when J.J. McCarthy inevitably comes back. It's like, okay, well, Sam Darnold was able to succeed here, so surely he's going to be able to succeed. But no, I think the story, though, is their defense. I don't even know who's on their defense. You got Byron Murphy. That's about the only notable person. Just looking at their defense, just going down on the box score, Blake Cashman? Who is that? Who is that human being? Cameron Bynum, I know. Cameron Bynum and Byron Murphy. Those are the 2 guys that are notable on this defense. Outside of them, and to be fair, also, again, it was garbage time points largely that they gave up, but points are points. So either way, I don't believe that the Vikings are truly the elite of the elite. They're the only other undefeated team. The only undefeated team left in the NFC. The only other undefeated team in the league is the Chiefs, and they are also kind of spiraling. Although it's kind of weird, right? The Chiefs are sneaking their way into victories because Patrick Mahomes is that good. The Vikings are just dominating team, and credit to them, they surprised a lot of people. I think a lot of people overlooked them. I don't know that people are going to continue to overlook them this year. I think Sam Darnold will be figured out, quote unquote. I hate when people say that. I think Sam Darnold will come back to reality, and water will find its level, where this quarterback is not as reliable, is not as good as he actually is showing himself to be. The defense might also regress in part as, injuries and, other matchups, line up here. The Lions got the Vikings in a few weeks here. After the Cowboys game, they got the Vikings at 1:00. I believe that's on the road. I could be wrong. Hopefully by then the Vikings have cooled off, or maybe the Lions will have to be the ones who do the cooling. Either way, I don't know that they are for real or that they are just good. I really don't know. So, yeah. Meanwhile, I got to talk about this as well. Tampa Bay lays a beat down on Philly. Nick Sirianni's got to get fired. This guy's a complete hack. I don't. This is inexplicable. I mean, this guy went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, was seen as a top coach in the league. Like by myself included, I thought he really had something figured out here with Jalen Hurts. But ever since like the second half of last year, everything has looked bad. Jalen Hurts has looked pedestrian. Saquon Barkley is the only competent player on this team. A.J. Brown is gone. I don't even know what happened to Devontae Smith. I think he got hurt. I don't even. He's lost control of this team. This team looks absolutely beaten. They look terrible. He's got to go. What does he do? What has he done since going to the Super Bowl? What has he done that has been indicative that he is in charge of this team? That he is in charge of, helping them win. He's done everything in his power, seemingly, to have them lose. So Baker Mayfield goes off on the Eagles. It's kind of funny, like with the Bucs. I think a lot of people would have thought, their coaching staff, would have been, the one that's questionable or fired at this point. But reality is, it's kind of the opposite. And Tampa Bay, I think, what's the name of their head coach again? Tampa Bay head coach Todd Bowles. I think Todd Bowles has really shown himself to be a pretty good head coach. Baker Mayfield has really come into his own with him. He's won the division, right? Like I think he's a really solid head coach. He's a little quiet. He's a little, not loud, not very outspoken. He kind of reminds me of Jim Caldwell a little bit. I know people are going, oh, they're both black, but I mean, like in personality, like he doesn't talk a whole lot, and frankly, he loses a lot of games similar to Jim Caldwell did. Like I think that it's a similar kind of vibe in Tampa Bay where they got a solid quarterback, above average quarterback. They have some really great all-time wide receivers in Mike Evans. They got Chris Godwin. They got weapons. This is a good Tampa Bay team. But on the other end of it, Philadelphia, get rid of this guy. Get rid of Nick Sirianni. He's a complete clown. He's a complete con artist. I know him when I see him. As a Detroit sports fan, I've seen a lot of these kinds of characters come around. Okay? I know him when I see him. This guy was carried by his coordinators. Both his coordinators leave. His teams gets inevitably worse. It makes you wonder what in the heck this guy even did. What was the positive that he brought to the team? So, yeah, I think he should be fired at this point. But usually you don't fire guys until probably late into the season. So I wouldn't expect him to be fired until at least, like, assuming that the ship doesn't get righted in Philly, I wouldn't expect him to get fired until probably maybe like Thanksgiving or Christmas. Maybe even the end of the season. Who knows? They don't usually. It depends on the owner, but some owners don't care about firing you during holidays. Sheila Hemp fired Matt Patricia after Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. You're unemployed. And wasn't it the Broncos ownership who fired Nathaniel Hackett on Christmas or after Christmas? It's like, Merry Christmas. You don't have a job. You're unemployed. Merry Christmas. Have a great holiday. Happy New Year. You're unemployed. Anyway, moving along. Baltimore with probably the game of the year for them, a must-win to get themselves back to 500, and they did it with a show. I mean, 35-10 on Sunday Night Football prime time. The Bills were completely outclassed here. Completely. I mean, for one, it's pretty hard to win a game when Derrick Henry runs for 199 yards and a touchdown. Pretty hard to win that game. But when on that first play, Jackson hands it off and Henry takes it to the house, I was like, whoa. Okay. This game might end rather quickly. So, yeah. Lamar Jackson has a pretty good night as well. Just threw the ball 18 times, 156 yards, a couple of touchdowns. And he also ran for 54 yards. So overall, over 200 yards for him. But the story of the game was Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry just completely outclassed the Bills defensively. They looked pedestrian. But look, this kind of thing happens. I mean, last year the Ravens did the same thing to the Lions. Granted, actually no, that was these are both at home, right? Yeah, this was in Baltimore, wasn't it? I think. M&T Bank Stadium. Yeah, this is in Baltimore. Okay. So they did the same thing to the Lions. I don't think the Bills are frauds by any stretch of the imagination. I still think they're a really, really good football team. And to Josh Allen's credit, he didn't play a terrible game. 16 for 29, 180 yards. It's not up to his standard, but it's it's okay. I mean, it's just everything was going wrong for them. It's one of those games where everything is going right for the other team and everything's going wrong for you. And these kind of games happen. They happen every single year to every single team. Need I remind you that last year the Raiders beat the Chiefs on Christmas? Like, one of the most dominant defenses with potentially the best quarterback to ever play the game in Patrick Mahomes. And the Raiders with Aiden O'Connell won the game. It just happens. It happens. And that's both the beauty and the pain of the NFL. Like, I guarantee you it's going to I mean, in a way, it might have already happened to the Lions against Tampa Bay. But it might happen again. Maybe they play, I don't know. Just thinking of a team we play later. Maybe they play Houston and everything comes up Houston. Houston blows us out. I don't know. But it's going to happen. It happens to every single team. Every good team, especially. But it'll happen to every single team where everything is going the other guys' way. So, bad night for the Bills, but I think they'll be okay. And a couple of notes here as well to end it out. The Dolphins are dead. I just wanted to declare that. When you lose a game, when your leading passer is your quarterback, but your leading passer threw for just 92 yards, or 96 yards. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just be disrespectful. I have no words for that. Like your leading rusher was also Tyler Huntley. They don't have a running back, apparently. Raheem Mostert is dead. Did he just quit football and not tell anybody? Tony Pollard on the other end, he had a pretty solid night. 22 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. The other story about this is that the moment they bench Will Levis and put in Mason Rudolph, who is also a bomb, they win the game. So the Titans get their first win, and it's damning with faint praise for poor Will Levis because, I mean, they won the game because they took him out. He threw an interception, and then, all right, Will, your night's done. We're done with you. We're throwing you in the garbage. But yeah, Miami's just dead. I did not think that the fall off without Tua Tagovailoa was going to be this big, but man, oh man, it's big. It's massive. Nothing went well for them this game. A complete embarrassment to the Dolphins. I mean, the Titans are also embarrassing, but they're embarrassing for a different reason. So, yeah. Also, apparently, most of their touchdowns must have come on defense. Is that right? No, they didn't get any defensive. How did they get 31 points? How did they get that many points and score just 2 touchdowns? Oh, they have 5 field goals. That's 15 points. That makes sense. That's how math works. Wow. Amazing. Amazing stuff. So, yeah, fun. All right. And then also, Devontae Adams requested a trade. This came out today. I'm going to be honest. I'm a little surprised by this news, just given the fact that you guys won the game. Like usually these sorts of trade request things happen when you lose. But you won. You won the game. I mean, he didn't even play. I don't even did he? Yeah, seriously, he didn't even catch. He wasn't in the box score. But your team won. He's not hurt, is he? Why didn't he play? I have no idea what's. Look, I didn't watch the Raiders-Browns game because I have self-respect. But I also don't get it in my market, and I'm not paying for an NFL Sunday ticket. But yeah, I mean, Devontae Adams requests a trade. I think plenty of teams obviously are going to be suitors. Just off the top of my head of teams that need wide receiver help, the Chiefs. The Chiefs could definitely use some wide receiver help. Rashee Rice could be out for the season. Yeah, the Rams, if they're feeling desperate, wouldn't be that far for Devontae to go from Vegas to LA. Wouldn't be that far at all. I'm sure the Rams would be able to take him with Puka and Cooper Kupp out. Buffalo, that's a team with a lot of younger wide receivers, with Keon Coleman. I'm sure he would like to have Devontae Adams to back him up. I mean, there's a lot of suitors. Basically, he would fit well in any team. I mean, he would fit well in Carolina. What happens when you're a really good player? As far as whether or not he actually goes, it kind of feels like he like people were saying, oh, he's gone. Like he's definitely going to leave. Like this is not just, going to be a news break and then, he ends up staying. It seems like it could very well be moving in the direction of him leaving Vegas, which is absolutely nuts because the whole thing, it's like, I don't even know why he ended up going to Vegas because Derek Carr sucks. And that was the reason you went to go play, was to go play with your little friend from college. It's like, dude, like, why would you know him better than anybody. You know that he stinks. So, yeah, you get what you deserve, as far as I'm concerned. It's like, yeah, you want to go play for a dysfunctional organization like the Las Vegas Raiders? Okay, fine. Go do it. See how that works out, buddy. Not good. Not good at all. I want to also pull this up. We're getting into college football here. To move along here. College football. All right. So I guess I'll talk Michigan State. They got blown out to Ohio State again. So look, there's not a whole lot to take out of this game. Aiden Childs played a pretty bad game again. I hesitate to say an absolutely putrid, awful game because the entire team was putrid and awful. However, this game was definitely within reach early. There was a point where Michigan State was showing the ability to move down the field. And they had, I think Ohio State a little bit on the ropes early. In that first quarter, it was a 3-0 lead for Ohio State. And I want to say Michigan State, I think they took a lead. Or they might have, I don't remember. Hold on, I can look at the game cast. See. I don't think No, they never took a lead, but they made it a 3-point game in the second quarter. And I think they got the ball back and then they turned the ball over. And that's sort of the story of this game is the turnover. Spartans had 3 turnovers, and I think all of them basically resulted in a score on the other end. You had the interception from Childs. You had a couple of fumbles as well. One fumble was from a face mask that was a no call. Yeah, I mean, again, there's not too much for me to take away from this game because it was just a complete blowout. I don't really have much to add. It's a 38-7 loss. Nobody looked good overall. Jaron Glover had 53 yards. You put in Tommy Schuster in the fourth quarter. At that point, I turned the game off. like the moment that Childs was out, I was like, all right, I'm done. There's no more for me to see. So it seems to continue happening. But I had this thought during this game. The difference between you and Ohio State is the difference between you and Prairie View. What Ohio State did to you on Saturday is what you did the week prior to Prairie View. Or not the week prior, a couple weeks prior. That is alarming. That's alarming for the state of Michigan State football. It's alarming for how good Ohio State is as well. That the difference between you and them is the difference between you and a team that has like 40 people going to the school. Is that it's indicative of how much work it's going to take for Jonathan Smith to get this ship right. Now, I'm not in the Barry Aiden Childs camp. I'm just not. This guy has the potential He is growing. He's going to go through growing pains. Unfortunately, his interception numbers are going to look very ugly. They just are. At this point, there's no getting around it. He's going to have probably double-digit interceptions by the end of the year. Almost certainly. If he doesn't already, he doesn't have it already. I don't think. Where's his interception total? Yeah, he's got 8 interceptions. He's going to have double-digit interceptions. I would be shocked if he ends up with just 1 interception down the stretch here. That'd be awesome. That'd be great. But it's going to happen. It's going to have an ugly ratio. He has the potential to be a first-round quarterback, and you see it in his ability to move on his feet. Obviously, not this game notwithstanding, he had -9 rushing yards, but you see it in his ability to make those tough, deep throws. You see it in his ability to be able to march down the team down the field. He has shown that. Whether or not it will take year or years for him to fully develop and be that guy. Look, by next year, I hope, and maybe unfortunately, this is just not much of a strategy. It's more of just a hope that he will have it locked down as far as the interception numbers will be cut in half, if not cut outright. But yeah, unfortunately, again, there's not a whole lot to learn from this Ohio State loss. You get blown out. We're on to Oregon on Friday night. Focus has to be on them. It could be an interesting game. Oregon is obviously a very good team, but you want to see Jonathan Smith kind of slow the bleeding a little bit. Like, this team's now lost 2 games in a row. You're 1 loss away from being back to a 500 football team. You're already 500 in the conference. This is another conference game. If you want to somewhat stay afloat here. Now, again, I'm not saying Michigan State is going to go out and win the conference. It's just not going to happen at this point. But if you want to keep things interesting, you can't go out and get blown out to Oregon this weekend or this Friday. You got to be able to put on a performance. Like, keep yourself in the game. And I know Jonathan Smith has the ability to outcoach Oregon. He did it in Oregon State. Whether or not he has the talent here at Michigan State is another question. And doing it on the road. Either way, Michigan State's got a tough road ahead for them. And, this stretch, starting with this game against Ohio State, it doesn't look good. So I just hope that they can sneak some wins here. And I do believe they will win some games that people don't expect them to win. And they very well could win on Friday against Oregon. I don't know that they will. I'm not betting on them to do that, but they've been underdogs and won before on the road. They did it against Maryland, and you went, "Oh, Maryland is not Oregon." I know, I understand. Just making a point. Either way, can't learn much from this game. So throw it out, forget about it, move on to next year. Maybe next year you'll be able to beat Ohio State. I doubt it, but maybe next year. We'll see. So, moving along then to this past week in college football. A pretty interesting week, all things considered. The main storyline is Alabama and Georgia. What a game. Now, I will say this, and I say this with shame in my heart. I went to bed at the half. I did. Okay, look, I had a long day. All right, I just watched my team get murdered. I was tired, but Alabama pulls off the win, but Georgia makes it interesting. I mean, you just look at the win probability, on ESPN. Georgia gets up late in this game, less than 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes to go, up 1 point, 34 to 33. Alabama ends up winning it. Now, here's what I'll say. This was the tale of 2 halves. And in my mind, this says a lot more about Georgia as a team than it does about Alabama. Let me explain. Alabama went in and they played probably the kind of game that I think I expected them to play, which was solid offensively. Jalen Monroe looked excellent, 374 yards in the air. Ryan Williams looks like, Jameson Williams 2.0. Like, he looks like the next Jameson Williams, basically, for Alabama. They played about the kind of game I expected them to play. Georgia, on the other hand, looked awful in the first half. Carson Beck turned it on in the second half, put on this major comeback late in the game, scored 19 points in the fourth quarter to make it close, but Alabama had scored too much. And it was too little too late, basically. To me, this drops the stock in Carson Beck as a quarterback, because this is a kind of, tale of two halves you can't really do. You got to be consistent. One way or the other, you got to be consistent. Either consistently be mediocre or bad, or consistently be pretty darn good and maybe occasionally have a bad game here or there. Either way, this is yet another, I don't know what it is about Georgia and Alabama, but Georgia just can't seem to beat Alabama in the regular season. They beat them one time in the national championship. That was the one time that they managed to do it. But they lost to them in the conference championship last year. They just lost to them this year. They lost it. It's like at a certain point, does Kirby Smart, it's not Nick Saban, okay? Kalen DeBoer is the coach. Nick Saban's gone. Nick Saban is, at the front desk at ESPN. I don't know if it's just poor planning or Kirby Smart this is just the one team that he just can't manage to beat in the regular season, or just in general, because frankly, that national championship win over Alabama becomes more and more like, okay, I don't really care about that anymore. That was years ago. Show me what you've done recently. So either way, I'm upset that I didn't get to watch the whole game, because I thought this game was over. I thought, okay, whatever, Georgia got blown out. That's fine. I didn't want to watch. So I missed the rest of it. But either way, another storyline here. Ole Miss. What the heck was that? What the heck was that? Kentucky, out of nowhere, just goes in and wins the game. I gotta say, I went into this season, Ole Miss, frankly, had pretty high expectations. Expectations to potentially win the SEC. Expectations to potentially win it all. Nope, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. And it's they're. I'm not gonna pretend I'm some Ole Miss expert, because I'm not. But every time I watch them, it seems like they're just kind of lackadaisical. Like they're beating up on some garbage team. I mean, yeah, you beat Georgia Southern, you beat Wake Forest, you beat all these teams to death. And when I watch this game, it's like, oh yeah, that's right, we're not playing, the school for the blind. And Kentucky, on the other hand, not some powerhouse school, not some football school. They go out, they play a competent brand of football. It wasn't pretty the whole game. I mean, you score 20 points. It's not exactly, a lights out performance, but they get the win. And that's at the end all that matters. So Ole Miss, hey, figure it out. This better be your only loss if you want to try to win a national championship. That's rough. That's a rough loss for Ole Miss, for the Rebels. I also got to talk Penn State because I was impressed by the fact that they won this game, and they won it in dominant fashion. So there's a question that I have about this: is Penn State? Is this game say more about Penn State or more about Illinois? Is Illinois actually fake because they lost to Penn State and Penn State's not all that good, or is Illinois good and this is a really good win for Penn State? And the fact that they, managed to beat them like this. So it's a little bit of I don't really know. Because Drew Aller didn't have a stellar game. 15 for 21, 135 yards. Not amazing. They won the game on the ground with Singleton and Allen. But, Illinois, they basically, it was a low scoring game the whole time. Illinois just shut down after the first quarter. Just looking at the score. They scored in the first quarter, and then they were like, you know what, we're done. We're done here. See you later. But again, I don't know that Illinois was ever really all that real. And again, that's not to say that they could certainly bounce back and still be a really competent team. But The Nittany Lions, on the other hand, I just refuse to believe. I every time James Franklin does this, he'll maybe put on 1, maybe 2 wins that you're like, oh, that's a pretty solid win. I'm ready for the day. Let's see, what do they play? Who's coming up for Penn State? They got UCLA. Okay, they're gonna blow them out. They got USC on the road. They probably could win that game. I'm ready for November the 2nd when they play Ohio State, and I guarantee you they're gonna lose that game. I guarantee it. I have zero doubt in my mind that Penn State will find a way to lose that game. Zero doubt in my mind. And they probably will win the rest of their games. They'll go 11-1. Maybe they lose to USC. Maybe. Outside of them, I don't think there's really anybody else that they're going to lose to. I mean, for goodness sakes, they almost lost to Bowling Green. All right. They were losing that game for a significant amount of time. Anyway. Finally here, Notre Dame, they get a solid win. They needed that win. Where's this game? There it is. Notre Dame, solid win. Continuing to kind of reclaim that playoff status for, again, the problem is with Notre Dame, they're not in a conference. So, yeah, you get a top 15 win. That's great. That's really good. And it's a hard-fought game, too. You know, you take a lead in the first half and you never look back. You know, but the problem is, you know, you're not in a conference. You have no avenue for a guaranteed spot. It's going to come down to how the playoff committee views Notre Dame at the end and whether or not they think that loss to Northern Illinois is worth keeping them out. But the more wins they stack up and the more wins against really good teams like they've stacked up, I mean, they had the win against Texas A&M on the road. They just had this win against Louisville, who was a solid team. I mean, looking at the rest of their schedule up ahead, you know, they got Florida State coming up. They got USC, obviously, at the end of the year. But that USC game might be the difference between Notre Dame making and missing the playoffs. Assuming USC is still in the top 25 at that point, which I have no doubt that they probably will be. Because outside of them, you got Stanford, Georgia Tech, you got Navy. I mean, those guys are going out to war after the game. I don't think, like, you better win that game, basically. And you got Army. I don't like the idea of Notre Dame playing our armed forces. Let's see. Are we sure that they're on our side? Anyway. So, yeah. Good win, though, for Notre Dame. Keeps their playoff hopes alive. They need that for sure. And moving on then to the AP poll. So, a lot of shakeup, naturally. Alabama moves up 3 spots. They are number 1 in the country. Texas drops 1 spot to number 2. Ohio State stays put. Tennessee moving up to number 4. Tennessee, sleeper team. I talked about them last week, I want to say. Sleeper team in the playoffs for sure. Georgia drops 3 spots. They are 5. Oregon moves up to number 6, couple of spots. Penn State goes up a couple of spots. They're 7. Miami drops a spot to 8. Missouri up a couple of spots. Michigan goes back into the top 10. Win over Minnesota. They kept it close, but a win's a win. So Michigan goes up to the top 10. USC goes up to 11, a couple of spots. Ole Miss, biggest dropper, or second biggest dropper, I believe. Second biggest dropper. They dropped 6 spots all the way to 12. LSU goes up a spot. Notre Dame moves up a couple. Clemson moves up a couple. Iowa State a couple. BYU jumps up 5 spots. The Mormons, they're doing all right. Utah drops 8 spots. What happened to Utah this week? Oh, that's right. Utah lost to Arizona. So a massive upset there. I didn't even talk about that. So Utah drops all the way down to 18 out of the top 10, which, again, it puts the Big 12 in question because Colorado got a win over UCF. Now, I don't really care. I'm not, throwing parades for UCF victories. Those are games you're supposed to win. Go out and win a game you're not supposed to win. Then I'll be impressed. But they lose the game to Arizona, who, hey, maybe Arizona's a sleeper in the Big 12 there. So Utah drops 8 spots. Oklahoma goes up a couple of spots as well. They're 19. Kansas State moves up into the top 20. They're number 20. Boise State as well in the Mountain West. Hey, I would love to see Boise State in the playoffs. I would love to see that. I love Boise State. I love their blue field. I hope that we get to see a playoff game in the blue field. I doubt we actually will, but it'd be cool if we did. Louisville drops 7 spots down to 22. Indiana moves into the top 25. So we're living in a world where Indiana and Illinois are both in the top 25. Illinois, however, though, drops 5 spots down to 24. So they stay in the top 25, but just outside there. There's 1 vote for Colorado in the top 25 as well. Arizona gets a lot of votes after their win, so very well could see Arizona next week. And speaking of next week, a little bit of a preview as well. Week 6 in college football. So obviously Friday night, already talked a little bit. Michigan State at Oregon. That's going to be 9 o'clock game on Fox. Probably the most interesting game. On Friday, I guess you also have Syracuse UNLV. That could be something. That's also at 9 o'clock on FS1. For Saturday though, Missouri at Texas A&M. That could be a pretty interesting game. I don't know why they have Texas A&M as 25. It's UNLV. That's incorrect. So Texas A&M hosting Missouri. That could be a pretty good game. Yeah, that's weird. Unless it got updated. Hold on. It must have gotten updated one way or the other. Is Texas A&M? I don't know. Either way. Missouri at Texas A&M is going to be it should be a good game. Something to watch for. Iowa at Ohio State. Big Ten matchup. This is probably the biggest test for Ohio State so far this year. It's at home though against Iowa, and Iowa always has good defenses, so could stifle their offensive firepower that they showed off in East Lansing against Michigan State. Auburn is going to be sacrificed to Georgia. I'm sorry, I misread that. Auburn is going to be playing Georgia at 3:30 on ABC. So they're not being sacrificed. Indiana's taking on Northwestern at Northwestern. Okay, so let's see if they can keep themselves in the top 25. Ole Miss at South Carolina. That could be an interesting game. So South Carolina kept it close with LSU, and Ole Miss play a sloppy brand of football. That could be an upset alert for sure. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, doesn't look like there's really anything else that's all that interesting. Miami Cal. 10:30 at night. You're feeling disgusting. Yeah, Michigan's playing at Washington. That might be an interesting game. It's Michigan's first road game, which is crazy to me. I didn't even. It's like Michigan State has played like it'll be 3 games on the road, and Michigan is playing their first road game. They must have a bunch of road games in a row or something. But yeah, so either way, that's the NBC game as well. So wait, what the heck? There's a game on True TV. Nevada and San Jose State are playing on True TV. Boy, you are down bad. They got games on like the CW too? They got games on MTV. It's like up next, it's Silent Library after South Alabama takes on South Dakota State. It's like, what? What are we even doing? So yeah, a pretty okay week. I definitely not as loaded, I think, as last week in terms of really good matchups. But I think the game to watch out for is probably that Ole Miss South Carolina game. I think that could be a very interesting game, or the Iowa Ohio State game. You could learn a lot about both of those teams in those games. So. And if you would like to watch Auburn get sacrificed, I mean, play a football game against Georgia, you could watch that. You know, if you're feeling down for that, that's what you're into. So, yeah, good stuff. All right. So I guess that's actually it. You can just go into the picks here. I want to make sure I got it all ready. Yeah. I guess we can do that. This is like the most anticlimactic intro to the picks like ever. So I guess we'll just do it. Just go into the picks. Get the music. It's week 5? It's week 5. Well, beautiful football music. Love it. Amazing stuff. All right. So, Seth obviously not here again. So, Thursday Night Football. Buccaneers visiting the Falcons. Seth is taking the Buccaneers. This could actually be a really good game for Thursday Night Football. It might not be super high scoring depending on which offenses you're going to get, but it also could be very high scoring depending on which offenses you get. I think Kirko's going to figure this one out. I think he's going to get the win at home. He had a really nice game this past week where he beat the Saints. Young Ho Koo got the game-winning kick there. So yeah, I think they'll continue where they left off. Keep the winning ways and beat the Buccaneers, who seem to be a little inconsistent. Some weeks they're on, some weeks they're off. Who knows? Give me the Falcons. Then we got the London game. Jets at the Vikings. Seth is taking the Vikings. Man, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the Jets. Only because of the rule of Sam Darnold is after week 4, he has a massive drop-off. I'm going to take the Jets here, not because I like Aaron Rodgers and that team. I think they're bad. But I do think that this will be the game where they can get the win and finally knock the Vikings back into center. So give me the Jets to pull off the win there in London. Panthers visiting the Bears. Seth taking the Bears. Yeah, you're playing the Panthers, so I'm taking the Bears. This should be prime for Caleb Williams to look at. If Caleb Williams cannot dominate the Panthers, there will be serious considerations for what this guy is supposed to be good at. Because if you can't look like an elite quarterback against that team, I'm just saying, it's a bad look. Bears all the way for that one. Ravens visiting the Bungles. Seth is taking the Birds all the way, and yeah, I'm gonna agree. Look, the Bengals won technically. They did, but they were playing the Panthers. And it didn't matter if that game was on the road. Joe Burrow still, he looked okay. He had a pretty okay game, but he also threw an interception. The Bengals on defense are just not good. I think this is a bad matchup. I think Derrick Henry will run all over them in Cincinnati. So give me the Ravens to put away their division rivals and all their season hope. Bills visiting the Texans. This could be a very interesting game. Seth is taking the Texans in this one. I feel like I'm taking the road team at least twice. I want to take the Bills to bounce back here. I kind of do. I'm going to take the Bills. This could be probably the most interesting matchup of the week. Bills coming off of an awful loss against Baltimore. I do think it's an up and down league. The Texans, they were up this week. They got to beat up on the Jaguars and their corpse of a quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. But I think Josh Allen and the Bills are gonna bounce back here. I think they're gonna get the win. Give me the Bills, get the win on the road. Colts at the Jaguars. Seth is taking the Colts. I think if Joe Flacco is starting, I'm taking the Colts all the way. I'm taking the little baby horsies. The Jaguars have a Trevor Lawrence problem. This guy's flat out bust. He is not an elite quarterback. He's not even close. Whereas Joe Flacco, that guy, he's an elite quarterback. Give me Joe Flacco and the Colts here to get the win. I got nothing to say about the Jaguars. They're a bad team. They're not good. Not looking great. Not looking great for T-Law. Dolphins visiting the Patriots in what I describe as football cancer. Seth is taking the Dolphins. I'm going to have to disagree. I am taking the Patriots. Any team that can't beat the Titans does not get a win in my book. You're basically the Panthers, but nicer looking. You have Tyreek Hill. That's true. And you have Jalen Waddle, but you have me throwing them the football, which is, this may surprise you. I'm not an NFL quarterback. So if you're running it with Tyler Huntley, it's not going to go well. So give me the Patriots. I think they're going to bounce back here after, who'd they play? Who'd they play last week? I don't even remember. They got blown out to the 49ers. That's right. I think they bounce back here. Please just put Drake May in. I'm tired of Jacoby Brissett. There's no reason for him to play. It's just stupid. So So, yeah, give me the Patriots. Browns at the Commanders. Seth is taking the Commanders. I think there's no question the Commanders are going to win this game. Jaden Daniels looks absolutely electric, blowing out the Arizona Cardinals. I thought that game would be much closer, but Kyler Murray may be returning back to the Kyler Murray that was more in touch like a couple of years ago when he just fell apart there late in the season. Yeah, give me the Commanders here to get the win. I think Jaden Daniels is pushing himself to be Rookie of the Year. So, yeah, Commies gonna get the win. Raiders at the Broncos. Another example of football cancer. Seth is taking the Broncos. Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'm going to take the Broncos as well. The reason, though, is because this Devontae Adams situation, I'm sure by the time this video gets uploaded, I don't know if we'll have any updates or whatever, but at this time, Devontae Adams has requested a trade. I don't know if he's going to be playing in this game. And without him, it doesn't bode well. So, yeah, I'm going to take the horses. I'm taking all horses. I got the Colts and I got the Broncos. So, yeah, it's all horse. It's an all horse picking this week. At the 49ers. Seth is taking the 49ers. Yeah, I will also take the 49ers. Unfortunately, it seems like the Cardinals are kind of spiraling a little bit. 49ers got Deebo Samuel back. Offense looked much better against New England. And I don't know how the hell the Cardinals are going to play this spot. Now, if they want to line, they're going to want to get a win here. But either way, I'm taking the 49ers. The 49ers. Packers visiting LA, taking on Rams. Seth is taking the Pack to get the win here. Man, this is a tough one. I think I'll take the Packers. I think they will get it right. They're going to have to get that ugly taste of losing to the Vikings out of their mouth. That disgusting taste of getting Sam Darnold, dropping everything on you. I do think they can get the win here. It is a road game, so a road game, quote unquote. I guess there's more Rams fans in LA than there are Chargers fans. But either way, not a lot. Usually, that stadium is taken over by visiting fans. Packers, though, I think Jordan Love will have at least a solid enough game to keep them afloat here and get a win. Now, if they lose this game again and Jordan Love looks bad again, you might start to hit the big red button. I know it's still early overall, but still, it'd be eerily similar to what we saw at the beginning of last year. So either way, give me the Pack. Giants visiting the Seahawks. Seth is taking the Seahawks. Yeah, this is not a question. Seahawks are going to win this game. The Giants are terrible. The Giants are so bad. I think basically there's no world in which Geno Smith does not just dice them up with DK Metcalf and Noah Fant and all the other guys that they got. Kenneth Walker. It's the Seahawks game to lose. Give me Seattle. Cowboys visiting the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Oh, Sunday night. Seth is taking them boys. I'm going to go with the Steelers. The Steelers played an ugly game and lost this week against the Colts. But they only lost that game, I will contend, because Joe Flacco took over. And as we all know, Joe Flacco owns the Steelers. We know this. This is just public information. Everybody knows it. It's some people don't want to accept it, but it's just true. I don't know how or why, but he does. I don't think that the Cowboys are all that. I think in Pittsburgh, this game, the weather might be a consideration. It's getting into October. It might be a cooler game here. And the Cowboys have just never had a game where they look absolutely dominant outside of maybe week 1. So give me the Steelers to get the win here over the Cowboys. Saints visiting the Chiefs on Monday night. Seth is taking the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs. The Saints blow another game last week late. I think we're getting to see Derek Carr return to the Derek Carr we know and love. And despite the fact that Rashee Rice's leg fell off, I do think that the Chiefs will still find a way to win defensively. Their defense is too good. They held Justin Herbert back, who I think is still a good quarterback, but it's not looking good for him the longer this goes on. Either way, though, I think the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes will find a way to win. It's in Kansas City. It's in Arrowhead. That's a hard place to win. Believe me, I know. Lions barely won there last year. And most teams don't win there, period. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a Chiefs win pretty easily. All right, to round it out, Buccaneers, Falcons. Seth is taking the Buccaneers. I am taking the Falcons. Jets, Vikings. Seth is taking the Vikings. I am taking the Jets. Panthers, Bears. We are both taking the Bears. Ravens, Bengals. We are both taking the Ravens. Bills, Texans. Seth is taking the Texans. I am taking the Bills. Colts, Jaguars. We're both taking the Colts. Dolphins, Patriots. Seth is taking the Dolphins. I am taking the Patriots. Browns, Commanders. We're both taking the Commanders. Raiders, Broncos. We are both taking the Broncos. Cardinals, 49ers. We are both taking the 49ers. Packers, Rams. We are both taking the Packers. Giants, Seahawks. We are both taking the Seahawks. Cowboys, Steelers. Seth is taking the Cowboys. I am taking the Steelers. And Saints, Chiefs. We are both taking the Chiefs. And those are your NFL Week 5 picks. And there it is. There's the show. Hour and a half. I believe like the length of the show basically increases when football starts because we got to do the picks. We got to do everything. We got to talk about the NFL. Yeah, it's just football season. It's great. I love it. I am very hungry though because I did not eat before this show. So I'm going to eat a late dinner and hopefully don't regret it. I probably will regret it, but I'm hungry. What am I supposed to do? I have to eat. So either way, we're going to wrap up the show here. Appreciate everybody for stopping by, hanging out, listening in. Please hit the subscribe button if you have not subscribed. We do shows every single Tuesday evening. A little bit of some show notes. Look ahead. I will not be able to live stream either of the next two or potentially two wildcard games for the Tigers. I have to work, naturally. I can't get those days off, so unable to stream those games, unfortunately. I will be planning on streaming Michigan State at Oregon on Friday night. It's going to be a late evening. A game is at 9 o'clock because it's in Oregon, but I will be planning on live streaming that, so that'll be there. And the Lions are off this week, so there's going to be no Lions stream on Sunday. However, assuming the Tigers advance, I won't be able to be free on Saturday night. So if they play Saturday, or I guess all day Saturday, if they play Saturday, I won't be able to stream that game. But if they play Sunday, if they play maybe some other evening in the week, I might be able to make that work. But just letting that be known. Letting that be known that I won't be able to stream anything on Saturday, and there's no Lions game on Sunday, but we will be streaming Michigan State on Friday. Okay. That's going to wrap up the show for this week. I do appreciate anybody for stopping by, listening in once again. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. We'll be live again later this week for Michigan State, Oregon. So hope to see you there. And if not, hope to see you next week. We'll break down all the sporting news of the week. Have a good night, everybody, and I'll see you later. Goodbye. Goodbye.